Have you ever watched a man completely lose his confidence in just 3 seconds? I have. He sat in my office, eyes filled with shame, whispering that he couldn't last long enough to even look his partner in the eye. At that moment, he wasn't talking about sex. He was talking about identity, manhood, and worth, because for many men, premature ejaculation feels like a silent humiliation no one dares to discuss. But what if I told you it's not a curse, it's a signal, one that your body is desperately trying to send you? I've seen men who've tried everything: pills, exercises, numbing creams, chasing control, but losing connection. And what shocked them most wasn't how fast they finished, it was how fast their anxiety took over. Because the truth is, ejaculation isn't the real problem. It's the body's way of saying you've stopped breathing. As a urologist, I've spent years studying this, not through my own body, but through hundreds of my patients. And what I've discovered is simple yet revolutionary. When you learn to breathe into your body, not fight it, you can retrain the entire system that controls pleasure timing and confidence. So today I want to show you the real science behind control, how your breath, your nervous system, and your awareness can completely rewrite your intimate life. Because you don't need to fight your body. Yeah, you just need to listen to it. Most men I see walk into my office believing one thing, that control means tension. They've been told to squeeze, to hold, to clench their pelvic floor, as if locking down their muscles could lock down their anxiety. But here's the truth. What they're tightening is exactly what's causing them to lose control. One patient told me, "Doctor, I do Kegels every day, but I finish even faster." His voice carried the weight of confusion and defeat, so I showed him a simple diagram of the pelvic floor. This, I said, is not a brake pedal. It's more like a balloon. When you squeeze it too much, it bursts, and that's exactly what happens inside the body. The more tension, the faster the reflex. In a 2022 study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, men who practiced relaxation-based pelvic training, not tension-based, improved their control by over 62% in just 8 weeks. The reason relaxation resets the nervous system, it tells your brain that it's safe to slow down, to feel, to stay. When I explain this to my patients, I often say, your body isn't betraying you. It's protecting you. It's firing too soon because it thinks you're under attack. Once they understand that their fear turns into curiosity, they stop fighting their body and start listening to it. And that's the first secret. Control begins not with strength, but with softness. But softness doesn't mean weakness. It's the doorway to mastery, because the real key isn't just relaxing your muscles, it's learning to breathe through them. And that's where most men's journeys truly begin. When my patients finally understand that control isn't about tightening, I ask them to do something that sounds deceptively simple. Breathe. And they often laugh. Breathing, that's it. But it's never just breathing. It's how you breathe that changes everything. See the moment a man feels anxiety, building heart racing, muscles tensing, thoughts spiraling. His body activates the sympathetic nervous system, the same system that prepares us to fight or run. Blood rushes away from the pelvis and straight into survival mode. You can't feel pleasure when your brain thinks you're in danger. That's why the first thing I teach isn't a position or a technique, it's pelvic breathing. It means sending oxygen, awareness, and calmness back to the very muscles that panic during intimacy. I once had a patient who called it the breath that saved my relationship. He practiced it every night 5 minutes before bed. Within weeks, he could feel when his body started to rush and breathe it back into into rhythm. Studies from Stanford and the American Journal of Men's Health show that controlled diaphragmatic breathing reduces premature ejaculation symptoms by over 70%, not because it fixes the body, but because it reprograms it. It trains your brain to link intimacy with calm, not chaos. I often tell my patients, the breath is the bridge between your fear and your control. And once they feel that bridge, once they realize they can surf the edge of arousal without drowning, their confidence begins to return. But breathing is only the first step, because once you can breathe through the moment, you have to learn how to feel through it. And that's where most men discover something far deeper than control. What most men don't realize is that their bodies can't tell the difference between excitement and anxiety. The sensations feel almost identical. The pounding chest, the fast breath, the rush of blood. In one context, it's passion. In another, it's panic. And when those two wires get crossed, your body reacts the only way it knows how, by ending things before it feels too much. I remember a patient, early 30s, confident at work, but terrified in bed. He told me every time things get intense, my body just gives up. But it wasn't giving up, it was protecting him. His nervous system had learned that high arousal equals danger. So I asked him to do something counterintuitive, stay with the feeling, not escape it. To notice the difference between pleasure rising and fear rising. It's fascinating. MRI studies from Harvard's Mind-Body Institute show that when men practice mindful awareness during arousal, the brain's fear center, the amygdala, quiets down. The prefrontal cortex, the part that governs focus and emotional regulation, lights up instead. In simple terms, they stop reacting and start responding. So when I say separate anxiety from arousal, I don't mean ignore it, I mean observe it. The moment a man can say, this isn't fear, this is energy, everything changes. He reclaims control, not by fighting his body, but by feeling it fully. That's where confidence is reborn, not in suppression, but in awareness. And yet, awareness alone isn't enough. Because once you can feel everything, you have to learn how to ride it, to stay right at the edge of pleasure without tipping over. That's the next level of mastery, and it's where the real transformation begins. Once a man learns to tell the difference between fear and arousal, the next step is learning to ride that wave. I call it surfing the sweet spot, the moment where pleasure builds, tension rises, and you stay right there balanced between too much and not enough. It's where real control is born, not from force, but from flow. I once had a patient who described his breakthrough perfectly. He said, for the first time, I wasn't trying to hold it back, I was riding it. That shift changed everything. Instead of panicking, when the energy built, he started to play with it, breathing deeper, softening his jaw, moving slower, even laughing. And in that laughter, his body rewired what intimacy meant. It was no longer a race, it became a rhythm. There's real science behind this. Studies from the European Society for Sexual Medicine show that men who practiced arousal control through breathing and pace stimulation reported a 78% improvement in endurance and higher satisfaction for both partners. The reason they learned to move energy instead of suppressing it, a physiological transformation that also healed their confidence. I often explain it like this: your arousal is an ocean. The more you fight the waves, the faster you drown. But when you learn to surf, you move with power, not against it. That's where intimacy becomes art, when control turns into connection. And yet even the best surfers know you can't ride forever unless you know how to ground that energy to spread it beyond one point in the body. Because pleasure, when contained, explodes, but when expanded, it transforms. When a man finally learns how to surf his arousal, something profound happens. He realizes pleasure isn't meant to stay trapped in one place. It's meant to move. That's where I teach what I call spreading the energy. Most men believe pleasure begins and ends in their genitals, but that's a myth, and it's one that keeps intimacy mechanical and shallow. In reality, pleasure can flow through the entire body like a current moving through a circuit. When you allow that energy to rise up your chest, down your arms, into your fingertips, you don't just last longer. You experience more. One of my patients, let's call him Jason, used to tell me it's like all the energy was trapped in one wire and it kept overheating. Through practice breathwork and mindful awareness, he learned to circulate that current to let it spread pulse and release through his whole system. His words, not mine. It stopped being about performance and started feeling like peace. Neuroscientists at UCLA have found that men who practice full-body arousal mapping activate up to 3 times more sensory pathways than those focused solely on the genitals. In simpler terms, they stop chasing orgasm and start feeling it everywhere. And the beauty of this approach, it rewires not just your physical body, but your emotional one. It invites your partner into the experience, eye contact, breath sync, subtle movement, where both of you become part of the same current. That's what I mean when I say control turns into connection, because ultimately this isn't about lasting longer. It's about staying present longer. And once that presence is mastered, it changes everything, not just in bed, but in how you show up in your entire life. But there's one final piece that ties it all together. The part that turns these techniques into transformation, how you carry this new energy into your relationship, your confidence, your identity as a man. That's where we bring it all home. So, gentlemen, if there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that control isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, patience, and learning to trust your own body again. What you're feeling isn't broken. It's your system asking to be understood. Start simple. Practice the breath. Slow down the pace. Notice your body instead of fighting it. Because every time you choose awareness over anxiety, you're already healing, not just your performance, but your confidence, your intimacy, and your peace of mind. And remember, no man should ever walk this journey alone. That's why I share these lessons here, to help you rebuild from science, from compassion, and from hope. If today's video helped you see things differently, don't just move on. Save this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll never miss the next evidence-based guide to reclaiming your strength, energy, and health, because your well-being as a man matters more than you've ever been told. I'm Dr. E. Name, and I'll see you in the next video where we keep turning medical knowledge into real-life confidence.